Hello, guys. This is Mr. Vandergriff, and this is lesson 3.1 with the moon jellies. Make sure you get your moon jelly booklet out and something to write with. Just before we get into the lesson, I just want to take a moment to kind of review how to get to Amplified Science and the moon jellies online. We're doing all of our work in the booklet. We're writing and recording all of that in our booklet. You're going to be turning it into your science teacher. You're going to bring that to school in a couple weeks. We'll let you know exactly when. But a lot of you also like to go online and see all the features there. So again, remember, go to Clever and then you click on Amplified Science. From Amplified Science, it's going to take you here. And then we are in the population and resources. We click on that. And then remember, we've already done chapter 1, chapter 2, and we're on chapter 3. And we are starting with lesson 3.1. So click on there. You can see there's the warm-up, right? But again, do that in your book, but you can access it online right here. Let me shut this down. So here we can take a look at the actual article we're going to be taking a look at and some of the research from Africa on jellies. So as this loads, so the kind of cool thing about this is you can actually have the article read to you.
Jelly population explosion. How competition for
Let's
power
see.
plants and drive swimmers away from beaches to increase. A team of ecologists.
So let's say down here you're not sure how to pronounce this. Northern Bagimila or Southern Bagi. You're not sure how to say that. So let's listen
Studied
here.
two ocean ecosystems near the southwestern coast of Africa. Northern Bangula and Southern Bangula.
Oh, okay. So that helps. Southern Bangula. Say it with me. Southern Bangula. So, some people like the article read to them. Again, if you want to practice Spanish, you can click on there, or maybe that's your first language. You can click on there and it'll read it to you in Spanish. So that's pretty cool. Let's go back. And then there's some discussions here. So this is how you annotate. This is how you kind of navigate. You can go back to chapter 3. We're going to be doing the sim next class. So you just click on here, and then you can click right on the sim. So that's kind of how you navigate through there. If you get lost, just click back, and that should take you back. All right, so back to our lesson. So let's go ahead and get started. Did our little walkthrough. So our learning intentions. All students will have a better understanding that a population is connected to other populations in addition to its consumer and resource populations on a food web. And also, populations sometimes compete for the same resources. Now, what I'd like you to do is go to page 76 in your Moon Jelly booklet and go to the warm-up right here. And you're going to just take a couple minutes to respond to this warm-up. I'll read it to you as you're getting ready. Do you think a population besides the moon jellies, consumer population, which is the sea turtles, or the resource population, which is the zooplankton, it's food, could cause the moon jelly population to increase in size? Yes or no? Why or why not? Give the details. So go ahead right now, pause the video, and respond to that warm-up. All right, so hopefully you pause the video and you put your thoughts down. So here's kind of what I'm thinking. I'll read you a response I came up with. If the wall-eyed pollock population dramatically increases, that would be here, then they would eat more zooplankton, which is here. If these pollocks are eating more zooplankton, then yes, that leaves less food for the moon jellies to eat, and that could cause the moon jelly population to go down, decrease. So that would be like an indirect relationship or indirect effect. So that's kind of what I'm thinking here. This would cause the moon jelly population to decrease because they would have less energy storage molecules to reproduce. So zooplankton goes up, more food, more moon jellies. The sea turtles go down. There's less sea turtles going to be eating moon jellies. Moon jelly population is going to go up as well. So the chapter question is this. How could a population besides the zooplankton or the sea turtles have caused the moon jelly population to increase? So we're going to be studying that more in detail. The investigative question of this lesson would be, what can affect the size of a population besides its resource or its consumer populations? So we have a memo from the head ecologist, Dr. Tiana Washington from the Glacier Research Center. And this is to you, the student ecologist. So please listen up. Other ecologists have studied jelly populations increasing all over the world. I am sending you an article about 2 real jelly populations far from here, near the southern tip of Africa. One population increased while the other population stayed stable. Read the article carefully. The reason for the jelly population increase was not something I expected. Learning about this real moon jelly explosion will help you determine what is happening in Glacier Sea ecosystem. So good luck, ecologist. So that's kind of the task. Now, if you would be so kind to go to D1 in your moon, ooh, that little typo right there, in your moon jelly booklet, D1. So this is D1, D2, and D3. So turn all the way in the back of your moon jelly booklet. Go to D1. Now, as you're going there, we want to make deeper connections with what we're reading because this is scientific research and the scientific article, and we want to connect with it and learn from it to extend our thinking. Okay, so this is the first page, but this is what kind of my thinking looked like when I was done. This is the second page, and this is where I added my annotations, what I was wondering about, how I made a personal connection with the text, how it maybe related. Here's the third page, how maybe it related to something we're already learning about in class. So I want to teach you how to do that. It's a great skill to have, to make deeper connections with what you're reading and not just mindlessly annotating. So the first thing is we want to ask questions about the paragraph or maybe a picture, or maybe there were some words that were a little confused. Highlight them, underline them, ask questions. What's confusing? Maybe there was something in the text that caused you to wonder. I'm always thinking like, oh my gosh, I wonder if this happened, or I wonder what's going on here. I wonder, right? So write those down. Does this remind you of anything, right? It might seem really insignificant, but just write it down and it might really enrich the conversation and the discussion. And last, is there anything we've done in class that makes you think about this, especially what we've been doing with the moon jellies and everything we've been learning about the yeast and the crickets and all of those things? Can you see any of those connections in the article that you are about to read? Again, here's the active reading guidelines. Think carefully about what you're reading. Pay attention to your own understanding, like what's going on in your brain. As you read, annotate the text to make a record of your thinking. Highlight challenging words or even words you don't use every day in your vocabulary. And notes to record questions and make connections of your own experiences. We all bring our own prior knowledge, our own life experiences to whatever we're interacting with. So those are valid and very important. 3, examine all visual representations, graphs, charts, pictures. Consider how they work with the text, connected to the text. And then after you read, make sure you discuss with others so you can have a greater understanding of the material. Now, again, you're going to have to do that with your fabulous audience at home, whether that's your pet dog, turtle, bird, brother, sister, grandpa, mom, dad, whoever you can connect with. Please talk with others about what you've learned, and it will really stick with you more and you'll get a better understanding. So we're going to do the first page together. So everyone's on D1, and I want you to annotate as I'm talking right now. You can copy my annotations word for word if you want. Maybe you're going to come up with your own annotations, but I start looking at the pictures here, and I'm like, so I start looking here. Jelly population explosion can happen all over the world. So my brain's like, well, how often do they occur? This photo shows a lot of jellies in a shallow part of an ocean near Denmark. And I'm like, okay, well, is there any type of pattern? Or are there certain countries that have more explosions with these jelly populations? And then I wrote up here, what country is the largest jelly population explosion when ever took place? Are these moon jellies? Are these some other type of jellies? Can they live that close together, or are these all going to end up dying? like what sometimes happens. I don't know. Can jellies be eaten by humans? And can they be used as a food source? So, again, those are just some questions I had by just looking at the picture. I haven't even started reading the article yet, but I really want to engage with it. Now I'm going to go ahead and read the title. Jelly population explosion. How competition can affect population size. So I'm just starting to think, okay, this is what the article is about. So let's just jump down here and just start reading a little here. In some ecosystems, don't use that word every day, so I'm going to highlight it. The populations of jellies has increased so much over a short period of time that people call it a population explosion. So look at my annotations here. I'm like, explosion. I think of like fireworks or a bomb or the 4th of July or like a volcano, Krakatoa in Indonesia. Or I think of something exploding, and I'm like, why did they use the word explosion? But when I thought more about explosion, I'm thinking explosion is when something small rapidly expands quickly. It goes from small to big quickly. So then I put here my annotations. When something goes from really small to really big quickly, I think that's what they mean by population explosion. Ecologists, fishermen, and many other people around the world are concerned about jelly population explosions. And I'm like, really? Is it that big of a deal that they're that concerned? Well, the next sentence actually answers it. In some places where the jelly populations are getting bigger, the increase in the population can affect human activity and the ecosystem that we depend on. So I found three things that how it affects humans. Masses of jellies damage fishing nets, or they can clog water pipes for power plants. That can be a problem without having power. Or it might scare swimmers away from beaches. It could really affect tourism, which we have a big tourist industry in San Diego. So I know there's a place in Australia, I think it was up in Cairns, up on the north part, and they have these things called box jellyfish, which are pretty deadly. And there's signs when we were there, it said, warning, do not swim, box jellyfish or sea wasp. So again, that is really affecting their tourism, right, when they have those box jellyfish. Let's continue. Here's the investigative question. So scientists are trying to figure out why this is taking place and how maybe they can be avoided. So very little text, but a lot of thinking going on here. Take a look at this picture here. Moon jellies are one of the most common types of jelly living in an ecosystem of the northern and southern Bengal. And I'm like, where is that? Because I didn't know where that was. So I wrote that question down. So right now, I know I've quickly gone over this. You can pause, stop the video, go back. But make sure you get all these annotations on your first page of the article. And what I'd like you to do now is pause the video and go ahead and annotate the other 2 pages. Please do this. Go ahead and pause the video. Probably take you, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes if you do a great job. And really annotate. So go ahead and pause the video. And I'll see you in a few. All right, I am back to take a look at the other couple pages and see what you came up with. So again, we already did the first page together. So let's go ahead and take a look at the second page. It says 2 jelly populations. To understand what can cause jelly populations to increase, a team of ecologists study 2 ocean ecosystems near the southern coast of Africa. So there's a scientific investigation. Again, that's what scientists do. Why are they studying 2 different populations? That was a question I had. Northern Bengal and southern Bengal. And then I find out a little further that Namibia is where northern Bengal is. It's an ecosystem off of that country. And then South Africa, you have the southern Bengal. Okay, so there's 2 African countries. See, again, remember, Africa is not a country, but a continent. It's roughly made of about 54 countries. And so there's these 2 countries here with these ecosystems off of there. They talk about a strong ocean current kind of dividing the 2 ecosystems, but they do have in common that they both have jellies, zooplankton, fish, anchovies, sardines, things like that. They even have a thing called the African penguins and Cape fur seals. So talks about how people have been fishing there for a long, long, long time. So the team of ecologists studied the two jelly populations. They analyzed data. Now remember, that's a science and engineering practice from the next generation science standards. Analyzing data. That's what scientists should be doing. That's what you should be doing as a young scientist. They collected data over 50 years. And what they found is that in northern Bangla, the population of jellies were going up. That's why I made this symbol here. And then in southern Bangla, the population of the jellies were staying the same. So I just were stable. See how it says right here, stable, stayed the same? So it was interesting. One was going up, the other was staying the same, and they wanted to know why. Now let's take a look at this picture here. So again, we've got the globe, the world here, and I can see the continent of Africa. And then if we zoom in here, I can see the continent a little better with those 54 countries. And way down here, this little zoom in bubble, we've got northern Bangla and southern Bangla, these two ecosystems. And then we've got three countries right here. We've got South Africa, we've got Namibia, and we've got Botswana. And I've had a wonderful opportunity to go to all three of these countries. But as I was reading this article, I was thinking of some wildlife that we were able to see in a place called Chobe National Park in Botswana. This was unbelievable. So I took my kids there, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. And you can see Zoe's face. She's like, wow, like what is she looking at, right? We're just in a little boat, and there's this giraffe just running along this little like lake swamp area. And we were just blown away. It was kind of like if you're in Ramona and you see, coyote running around at dusk or at dawn. You're like, look at the coyotes. We're like, look at the giraffe. It was just like unbelievable. And then Samuel smiled and was like, Dad, look at all those hippos. There's just a bunch of hippos right behind him. And again, out of all the dangerous animals in Africa, they would say the big game animals, it would be a hippo because, one or two chomps and you're done. They don't eat you. They're just kind of very territorial, super dangerous there. So stay away from the hippos. Here's a hippo right here as we zoomed in. And there, yep, crocodile. And right when I took this photo, one of the guides grabbed my son and pulled him back and said, crocodile likes young humans. Stay back because they can jump pretty far, I guess. So yeah, I'm glad he pulled my son back. And it's maybe hard to see, but I see some elephants. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 elephants. Zoom in. Here's my wife with a couple elephants. And you kind of zoom in. You can see a couple there. And just a couple family shots of the elephants eating in the background at Chobe National Park. An amazing, amazing place. And so when I was reading the article, I just had a personal connection there that I was thinking, Botswana, I've been there twice. I've been to that national park twice, and it just got me thinking. Okay, so again, maybe you haven't gone to a national park in Africa, but again, think of you've done a lot of stuff in Ramona, and maybe something reminds you of a snake you saw, or coyote, or something that we read in class, and make those personal connections. So I'm asking questions about this, like why is the net red? Is it easier to find if you lose it? Or, I'm thinking that's a lot of fish. It says there's thousands of fish in here. I'm like, I wonder how much money a fish that is. Is that like 10,000 or 100,000 or $500,000 worth of fish? Because maybe that's really important to their, economy, and this, so that's why they're fishing. Okay, and then they start talking about here how they've been fishing since the 50s, but they had to implement some laws. So in the 70s, I think southern Bangla talked about how they passed a law saying, hey, we only can fish so much. We need to put a limit on this. And if you catch too many fish, they won't be able to survive, or at least that's what I had a question in. So where is it? Yeah. In 1970, southern Bangla, in an effort to protect the fish population there, passed a law saying there was a certain limit. In contrast, northern Bangla did not pass any laws. So now let's jump down 30 years later from 1970 to 2000. Without laws limiting the number of fish they would catch in northern Bangla, people caught huge numbers of sardines and other fish, causing the fish populations to decrease. So if you catch too many fish, it's not sustainable. You're going to overfish. It's not good, right? So here I'm wondering, why did southern Bangla pass a law, but northern Bangla did not pass that law? So let's go to our last page here, competition for food. So here's the investigative question. So why did a decrease in the size of the fish population in northern Bangla affect the jelly population? Remember, the jelly population went up in northern Bangla, and the jelly population in southern Bangla stayed the same. So if you take a look at this little chart here, you can see that the sardines are eating the zooplankton, the jellies are eating the zooplankton. So this is their resource population. This is the consumer population, consumer population. And they're competing for this food. They're not like fighting each other, but they're going after this resource population. And so, in essence, that is a form of competition. They both eat zooplankton. This relationship is called competition because both populations are competing for the same resource. With fewer zooplankton eaten by the sardines, the zooplankton population increased. So, increased, leaving more zooplankton for the jellies to eat, having a larger resource population made of more energy storage molecules. Now, put a star right here. So let's take a look at what this is here. More reproduction led to more births than deaths, so the jelly population increased. Now, I drew a little key here. I know you might not be able to draw a key as amazing as I did. It's a pretty phenomenal sketch of a key. Key idea right here. A change to the sardine population caused the zooplankton population to change, which caused the jelly population to change. This is an example of an indirect effect. The result of a chain of effect causes and effects. Causes and effects. So remember, that's one of our cross-cutting concepts in the next generation science standards. That's where one cause leads to the effect, then the cause is another effect, indirect cause, or indirect effect. Now let's take a look here. Stayed the same. But in southern Bangla, the jelly population did not increase. This meant that the fish consumed the same number of zooplankton as usual, leaving the same number of zooplankton for the jellies and not causing any change in the jelly population. Okay, so I got biodiversity is kind of a new vocabulary word in there. It's just a measurement. Biodiversity is how many living things are living in that area. Biodiversity is also a measurement of how healthy an ecosystem is. Let's see here. I have some. We all need to do our part in helping the ecosystem. Okay. In order to maintain healthy ecosystems, people need to come up with plans like southern Bangla, fishing limits to keep the ecosystem stable and maintain the biodiversity. Okay, so science have been studying all this data. They were looking for patterns, and they found this out. So what they found out was this. And here, where there were no laws, overfishing took place. So the humans were eating all these sardines. The sardine population was going down, so they were eating less zooplankton. That caused way more zooplankton to be eaten or consumed by the jellies, causing the jelly population to explode. More food for jellies, more energy for the jellies to reproduce. So that's an indirect effect. And again, too many jellies were causing all sorts of problems. So again, I'm looking right here. San Diego, we do even have fishing laws to protect. So out at like Sunset Cliffs and other places in La Jolla, we've got lobster. And so when you're lobster diving, you need a license. You only can take ones that are so big, so the younger ones have a chance to grow up and reproduce. Same true as with abalone and other fish. So again, we want to keep a healthy ecosystem in that. All right, let's see what we got here. So hopefully kind of modeling that helps you out. All right, so could you do this now? I know we're not in class, but could you put #share on a couple key points from those 3 pages? And then go ahead and share that with your fabulous audience at home. And then last, for those of you that just want to learn more and you're like, I'm bored out of my mind, I can only watch so much Disney Plus and Netflix, I want to do more. So maybe what you could do is research some more industries in San Diego that possibly have an impact on the environment. So again, a lot of the industries we have in San Diego, there's great things, whether it's tourism, it brings a lot of money in, or whether it's outdoors like hiking or rock climbing or all the different things that we have. People visiting the deserts or our forests or our marshes or our estuaries or our beaches. But again, what are some of those impacts? So you could go ahead and research that. Let me give you an example, and then I'll leave you with that thought. Done a lot of rock climbing at Mount Woodson over the years, but as more and more people have been going to visit Potato Chip Rock and other places like that, I'm noticing a lot more trash and a lot more tagging and a lot more spray paint. Where people are urban, where people are just tagging the place up. This is the nature. This is outside, and People are like tagging the rocks. Just it's not cool. So anyway, go ahead and research some industries in San Diego. We have a lot of industries besides tourism. And then what might be some of the benefits of how the benefits and some of the negative impacts on the ecosystem and how humans are impacting um, ecosystems. And I hope this lesson was helpful.